Now, some of the world's most famous people are covered in them. Many see them as a method of self-expression, but having a tattoo can reduce your chances of getting a job. That's according to a new study.
We'll chat about this in just a moment. First, though, we ask some of you whether having inked skin holds you back in the workplace.
I think it's unfair. I think it depends on the type of work, to be honest. The image of your company. But to me, it doesn't matter if someone's got tattoos or not. Can they perform the job? Yes, all right, you're in. Simple as that.
Society expects people to be quite plain and simple, and although they're current, I don't know how people will feel in 10 years' time about having these tattoos right now, and I think they can be seen in poor taste.
I'm not one to judge people with tattoos as in a negative way. I think it's a lifestyle choice. It's something that people have a right to choose to wear, and I wouldn't necessarily think as an employer it would jeopardise anyone interviewing with me.
I don't have any tattoos. It's surprising a little bit just because in this day and age, isn't it 1 in 3 have a tattoo? So that means 1 in 3 people are not getting a job because they have a tattoo. That's a bit of a high demographic, I don't know.
I think people who have tattoos want to look different, they want to stand out. If that means that it loses them certain job opportunities, then that's their choice. I think that's what they want to do. We want to be different. We don't want to fit in with the crowd and be accepted.
Well, there are some points of view, lots of you getting in touch as well. Thank you for those. We're joined now by Danny Binney, who's a tattoo artist. You can probably see which one he is, and Lynn Bromley, a personal branding coach. Morning, both. Thanks very much for joining us. Danny, this is something you've obviously embraced. We can see we've got tattoos on your hands, your arms. Has it affected your job prospects?
Personally, not myself, because obviously I'm an employer. Yes. I do know in society it is affecting people with tattoos.
Is it? How?
Just because you've got the older traditional values in there, viewing it as the biker image, as opposed to body art now, where it's an expression of people's personalities, as opposed to a branding in a kind of way.
So, Danny, if I were to come into your tattoo parlour and say I wanted something, maybe on my... I notice you've got something on your fingers there, which is instantly visible, isn't it, to any situation. Would you ask me, for example, what my line of work was? Is that of any consequence to you? Or would you think I've made that decision and you do it anyway?
I wouldn't necessarily go down them routes, but I would make sure you had other large tattoos before tattooing your hands or your neck, just so we know there's commitment already and you've thought of it. If you come in with no tattoos and wanted your knuckles tattooing, we would advise or at least have a conversation about how this is going to look within society and may affect, your chances of jobs and other commitments in life.
Lynn, how do you think it affects people? And you're a personal branding coach. What would your advice be to people, really?
So my advice would be, depending on the job that they're going for, really, and the type of tattoo that they're looking to have, would make a real difference, because there are so many different types of tattoo, so many different places you can have them on your body, and also lots of different types of role that people could go for. So in some roles it's perfectly acceptable, and in others it just isn't the norm.
Can you give us an example of a role where you think it's unacceptable?
So unacceptable, I think, would be something like banking. It would be the profession. So banking, accountancy, insurance, lawyers, those sorts of professions where it's not seen to be acceptable. And
do the link up for me there. Why unacceptable? Why in those professions?
I think just because it's not seen to be the norm. I think having a tattoo on display isn't seen as being professional. So if it's somewhere discreet where it can be hidden away, that's absolutely fine. But certainly not to have it like Danny's across the knuckles there. It just wouldn't seem to be professional.
Dan, it's kind of a sort of vast generalisation, really. But do you see, with all the people coming into your tattoo parlour, do you see the sort of change in the type of person or the jobs that people are doing?
Our studio's a prestige, so we do get a lot of professionals in, but they are very, very wary of where they're getting these tattoos of professionals. We did have a priest in who wanted to look at his saviour. He had Jesus on his arm, so he wanted to look at his saviour every day of his life. We do get lawyers in, we do get a lot of teachers in, but they are very, very conscious about where they're getting these tattoos. So they are getting them above sleeve lines, they are getting them on chest, on the torso, on the legs, not necessarily on hands and lower arms.
And they're often talked about is this David Beckham effect, because he is very heavily tattooed now. He's got a lot of tattoos, and people say, well, let's make it more acceptable. He still gets his advertising contracts and whatever, but there is I mean, he's in a position where he could do pretty much what he likes and he'd still make a lot of money.
Definitely.
Is there a danger that people think, well, David Beckham's got one, so I can do what I like now?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's more appropriate if you are in something like sport or music or even the fitness industry. My two younger brothers are both quite tattooed and they're both in the fitness industry. And it's actually almost the opposite is true there. If you don't have a tattoo in that industry, it's almost the, you know, the exception to the rule.
And Danny, can I ask you, I think there's a generational, I think you referenced this a moment ago, there are some generational differences. Younger people now, I don't think, have the same inhibitions about tattoos or the assumptions about people. So what do you do about young people? What sort of guidelines or rules do you have about younger people who want tattoos?
We're governmented, obviously, so it's 18 up, so you've got to be 18 to have a tattoo. But what we are going to find is it's all big art at the moment. It's not small tattoos, it's full sleeves, it's full chest pieces, it's full back pieces. We're going to find in 20 years' time, we're in a different position then where they are then the employers. So where are we going to be then?
I'm interested as well, we're just looking at some of the pictures from various celebrities with tattoos, and of course there is a situation where you get somebody's name tattooed on your body, then circumstances change. You know, how easy is it to get them removed? And what do you say when somebody comes in saying, I want, you know, a name tattooed on me?
To be honest, the tattoo industry look down upon names, partners' names. You know, we don't support
for that very
them.
reason.
Yeah, they are covered up all the time. They are easy coverable, but it is something we wouldn't advise customers against, but it's something personally, in my opinion, you know, we fall in and out of loving life, don't we? So it's not advisable, really.
And Danny, what would your advice be to people going for interviews with tattoos? Think about the job that you're going for.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, so think about the appropriateness of the job that you're applying for, whether the tattoo is in an appropriate place, and whether they're going to regret it as they get older.
It's an interesting chat. Lots of people getting in touch this morning with their own stories. So we'll talk, have a few more of those later on. Thank you.
Thank you.